Megatron, call off your Predacons. Megatron's gone! Welcome to rules!
What the f? No. Okay, you guys heard that, right? That's unironically in a Rise of the Beast toy, and I just found out before making this video. So, the Predacons in Rise of the Beast are some of the weirdest and most confusing factions in the live action movie series to date. And in Rise of the Beast, the Predacons we did see are just a bunch of Scorponauts, which achieve nothing, do nothing, and get killed off. And what makes this more complicated is that if you look at Scourge's like little badges around him, you can see that there's plenty of Predacon insignias all around him, meaning that he has killed Predacons despite working with Predacons. But that means that are the Predacons here their own separate faction? Are they actually Predacons? I mean, he doesn't kill Terrorcons, so in-faction killing doesn't seem to be a thing, and it's like, urgh! Jesus, like the Rise of the Beast Predacons are such a mind f. I have honestly lost sleep trying to figure out what they're all about, but I think I finally figured it out. So in this video, I'm gonna be explaining once and for all who the Predacons are, why they're working with Unicron, and most important of all, where is my boy Waspinator? Hey guys, the Firebird is here. It's just me. My brother couldn't be here today because Transit laughed so hard he drop kicked him into the 4th dimension. I swear these are just getting more and more creative. But anyways, these are the jokes. So let's talk about the Predacons, who they are, their history, and that kind of stuff. So like I said at the beginning, they first appear on the Maximal planet and they help Scourge, go after the Maximals in search of the transfer key. 2 Scorponauts managed to successfully subdue Abeling for a bit, who was carrying the transfer key, before getting quickly killed off by Optimus Primal and Air Racer. The Predacons are then seen later in the movie when the transfer key was activated on Earth. Unicron sent an army of Predacons through the transfer portal as reinforcements for the Terrorcons and their sweeps. The Predacons pretty much achieved nothing during the final battle except get killed off by the Maximals, and eventually once the transfer bridge was destroyed, all enemy forces, including the Scorponauts that remained, were sucked back into the portal, back into Unicron's galaxy. And that's pretty much about it really. For a faction that Steven hyped up since the beginning, since day 0, they might as well not have been in the movie since they literally did nothing. Like, you could have replaced the Scorponauts with literally just bigger freezers and literally nothing would have changed. I'm pretty sure that even hardcore sims like TF Hype Guy that like worship the movie even acknowledged that the Predacons were very underutilized. By the way, no hate to him, I actually really like that guy and I'm friends with him. It's just a small joke at his expense, okay? Don't take it too seriously. So the Predacons here serve Unicron unquestionably. But what's interesting is the things that the movie don't exactly tell us. If you look at Scourge, you can see that he has about 9 Predacon symbols wielded onto his body, likely from Predacons that he previously killed, meaning that at one point the Predacons were at least hostile to the Terrorcons, so they have a bit of a backstory that were not always allies. The Scorponauts that the Terrorcons and Unicron have at their disposal do have the Predacon insignia. You can in fact spot this when they're being tossed around by Optimus Primal and in a few other occasions. So from the evidence here, we could at least in theory say that the Predacons and Terrorcons were enemies at one point, until they joined forces to serve Unicron for whatever reason. There's also a bit of a mystery and an ongoing debate if the Scorponauts themselves are sentient or if they're just mindless beasts. We never see them transform in the movie, and although the concept art does exist of them in robot mode, and lately we have Studio Series which gives them their canon robot mode, the Predacons for the most part seem to be almost mindless. Now you might be thinking, but Fire, why does it matter if they're mindless beasts or if they're sentient? That doesn't really matter for the context of this video, right? Well, it actually really does matter a lot. It's important to know if the Predacons here are sentient or if they're just mindless drones, like let's say probably most of the sweeps that we see in the final battle. And don't worry, we'll get to that can of worms in a bit. If the Predacons are sentient, then that means that all the Predacons here are willingly serving Unicron. Likely so they themselves are now, killed off by Unicron and Scourge. Meaning that at one point the Predacons were hunted down by Scourge and maybe an alliance was formed with him in order to save themselves, and maybe that's also the reason why Unicron found out about the Maximal planet and where the Maximals were. Because if you remember Primal's dialogue at the beginning of the movie, he does mention that while they knew about Unicron's existence, they had never seen him before until the day he showed up in the skies of their planet. And keep in mind that Unicron had prior knowledge of the transwarp key, so this should tell you that that he had to learn that knowledge from somewhere. And since the Predacons were at one point hostile with the Terrorcons, maybe this is what happened. Maybe Scourge and the other Terrorcons encountered the Predacons, and they fought each other for supremacy. But since the Predacons figured that fighting a giant planet and his all-powerful dark servants will be way too much for them, instead they decide to do a bit of leverage. They will offer their services to Scourge and Unicron in exchange for information. That information being the Maximal Homeworld and the Transwarp Key, something that could be used to travel across galaxies or even time travel supposedly. So we could at least surmise that the Predacons allied themselves to Unicron so they could snitch on the Maximals and save their own skins and let the Chaos Bringer know where the Maximals could be. That could also be the reason why they're being kept around by Unicron even though they're supposedly not that useful. But it's a viable theory to explain this, unlikely alliance, how Unicron found the planet and knew about the Transwarp Key, while the Maximals knew about Unicron but they did not know exactly why he was there. And now, that's just an explanation, and even then we can't exactly say that these guys right here are Predacons, because the name Predacon never gets name dropped in the movie. There was one scene that was cut from the movie early on during the final battle, when the Scorponauts were descending from space all the way to Earth. Optimus Prime was gonna look up and he was gonna say Predacons, and that was gonna be our first Predacon name drop. But instead, that was cut to give way for Steven to name drop Brooklyn, the true fourth faction of the movie. We have Maximals, Autobots, Terrorcons, and Brooklyn. And look, a small tangent. I absolutely hate how much stuff got cut from Rise of the Beast and how much stuff that was unnecessary was kept. Are you telling me that we could keep at least 4 scenes in the final battle where Brooklyn was name dropped, even though, the context of it was really not fitting, and, maybe in this, desperate situation, saying that out loud is kind of pointless and doesn't tell us anything about these characters? But no, a 5-second clip of Optimus Prime saying the word Terrorcon. Nah, mate, that's cringe. Get rid of it. We can't waste any more time. We need more screen time to name drop Brooklyn, the most important place in the universe. I am really salty about that. Really, what's 5 seconds? Cut either one of these 2 scenes and replace it with Optimus Prime just saying the word Predacon just to establish who and what they are. Just really quickly, for the fans. Bam! You can even keep one of these 2 scenes, I don't really care. But yeah, small tangent aside, another big mystery of the Predacons would be, of course, the Terrorcon army. Now, the Terrorcon army gets name dropped as Predacons in the behind the scenes that I uploaded on my channel. You guys can check it out. I actually uploaded a bunch of behind the scenes and deleted scenes a few months back. And with the section that supposedly talks about the Predacons appears, they showcase, a lot of footage of the Terrorcon army. So that kind of subtly implies that these guys are Predacons. But people are also arguing that that may also be a mistake by part of the production. They couldn't tell the difference between Predacons and Terrorcons, because between the Terrorcon army there's plenty of freezer models and we know those are Terrorcons for sure. But then you see other models that look kind of beast-like. We don't know if this was an honest mistake or if this is really implying that in the eyes of Steven and the production, these are Predacons. And if things weren't bad enough, if you look at the concept art, you can see that some of the scrap Predacons like Waspinator, Spitter, and Ramhorn look very similar to how the Terrorcon army did. So maybe the Terrorcon army was originally in fact intended to be Predacons, though that was scrapped in favor of just generic soldiers. But since we're on the topic of deleted scrap content from the movie, there's so much content for the Predacons that got deleted, it's not even funny. And keep in mind, this is just the concept art that we know of. All that I'm about to say is just the stuff that we know. For all we know, there's so much more out there, and we probably won't find out till months, if not years later. So Waspinator, Ramhorn, and of course Spitter were gonna be in the movie. There's actually plenty of concept art about them. And if that wasn't enough, we also have unused concept art for some Scorponok recolors in the form of Sandstorm and Double Punch, which are just red and blue Scorponoks respectively. And then of course we have the scrap, Scorponok robot mode from the concept art and the scrap Scorponok Thailand from the concept art, in which a bunch of Scorponoks were gonna merge together to form an actual big giant Scorponok that was gonna, be an actual threat in the battlefield. And I'll be honest with you, I wish this was kept, because like I said, the Predacons achieved nothing and did nothing throughout the movie aside from shoot a blink that one time, which to be honest, you could have just easily have a bunch of freezers do that instead. There was no need to have the Predacons do that, especially since they did nothing throughout the film. So having them combine into a formidable titan that will actually make things difficult for the Autobots and Maximals will have actually, make them a bit more dangerous, and will have actually make the statement of Scourge as the reinforcements actually means something, aside from, Unicron just throwing more bodies in there for the Maximals to kill off. And then of course there's also Rampage, who was gonna have a scene in the Peruvian ruins where he was gonna briefly come back to life to jump scare the humans and the audience, but this was cut. Even though a model of Rampage was completely made, you're actually looking at it right now. But if anything, it looks like the Predacons were planned to be on Earth alongside the Maximals since very early on in the movie's production. Because this concept art right here is pretty early on, and of course the concept of the Waspinator, Spitter, and of course Ranhor is also really early on. And when you take a look at the marketing, a lot of it also depicts the Predacons being very in the background. Of course, they're not front and center, but you do see their silhouettes every now and then, especially in the toy packaging for the mainline toys. And now I guess it's around the time I finally talk about that clip I put at the beginning. Now this toy seems to have been made pretty early on in the life cycle of Rise of the Beast, when they were just, making the movie, thinking of the characters that were gonna be in it, and of course, designing them. A lot of the early Optimus Primal toys actually look very similar because they're based off a concept that we haven't seen just yet. But what's interesting is that this also does confirm that Waspinator was really planned out for the movie, they even got a voice for him. But I find this context to be so fascinating. So Megatron is gone, and Waspinator is the leader of the Predacons. Now look, I don't know what this means exactly. Is he the leader of the Predacons being led by Unicron, or is he the leader of the Predacons on Earth or wherever the Maximals are having this conversation in? This just opens up so many questions, but if anything, this seems to imply that the Predacons as a faction right now are divided. There are the Predacons that serve Unicron, there's Megatron's Predacons that are out there somewhere, and now there's Waspinator's Predacons, which probably involve Ranhor and Spitter, who we know were planned out pretty early on to be in the movie. And arguably maybe Rampage, but I highly doubt it. I don't think that has anything to do with this. I think it's pretty silly to think that Waspinator will rule over someone like Rampage. Over Ranhor and Spitter, yeah, but Rampage, nah, that's a bridge too far. So assuming that this is real, that maybe the Maximals and Predacons landed on Earth together, this could explain the weird usage of the Predacons throughout the marketing. We see them here and there, well, we see their silhouettes, but it was always weird because they never really appear in the movie. We only saw Scorpion really appear in the movie. And we know from unused concepts and the like that the Predacons were gonna have a much larger role in the movie until those were cut. And this right here seems to be a remnant of that. Though again, I don't want to take this little clip too seriously either, because again, it's just a cute little interaction for a toy to sell toys. But if anything, this does confirm that Waspinator was more than planned out to be in the movie. I mean, you just don't give a voice to a character that just doesn't appear in the movie. You just don't do that. That doesn't sell. But if it's a character that was meant to appear originally in Rise of the Beast, which we know Waspinator is, then this here makes a whole lot of sense. So what did we learn today? The Predacons were completely shafted in Rise of the Beast, their roles were completely minimalized, a lot of the concept art was completely scrapped, only for them to be a small nuisance in the movie that achieved and did nothing. We were wrong! But at least Steven has gone on record and said that for the sequel he wants to add more Predacons, so at least he does realize that, the fans were at least gonna be pretty upset that the Predacons literally did nothing in the movie. And honestly, I can't blame Steven too much, cause again, Autobots, Maximals, Terrorcons, Decepticons, and Predacons, and one faction had to get cut and another one had to be butchered for the film to, not feel as cluttered. And to be honest, this is a fear that all of us had since day one when they announced that we were gonna have 5 factions. 5 factions is pretty unheard of for any Transformers movie, and having this many at the front and center, raised a lot of eyebrows. But of course, I guess along the way, the filmmakers realized the error of the ways and they cut Transit, butchered the Decepticons, minimalized some of the characterization of the Terrorcons, and gave a bit more emphasis to the Maximals while rewriting and recutting some stuff. Honestly, Rise of the Beast is a pretty messy film when you think about it, because a lot of the stuff was really cut last minute, a lot of stuff was reworked halfway through. Hell, the movie itself was delayed for a whole year, and I still believe to this day that the whole reason why that happened is because A, they were not gonna finish in time, because you know, they had so much on their plate, they had to cut down on some stuff, and B, there was poor planning and maybe even poor management, because they originally thought they will be able to buy more than what they could chew. But I guess that will remain the big mystery of the thing. We won't know for certain till years later, or until someone from Paramount or even Steven himself comes out and, you know, tells us all about whatever happened behind the scenes. But as for right now, this is all I can tell you about the Predacons. So, yeah. That's it for this video. Do you guys think that the Predacons were wasted in the movie? Do you think that maybe they should have kept some of the unused concepts? And do you think that the Predacons are divided into multiple sub-factions like Waspinator, Unicron, and of course Beast Megatron? Or do you think that, you know, that's not the case and the Predacons just, you know, serve Unicron willingly? And personally, I don't know, after seeing everything here, I feel like there's enough evidence to the point that you could say that the Terrorcons and Predacons don't exactly like each other, but they mostly work together for convenience, and that there's definitely going on more behind the scenes that meets the eye. Again, only time will tell what we missed and what was cut, but for now, I guess we can all sigh in agreement that we were robbed. So, yeah. As always, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all that annoying YouTuber stuff that the algorithm likes so much. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, guys. Anyways, guys, before we go, shout out to our super cool, incredible Patreon: James Newbold, Crawley666, TF Cypher, D Taylor, Legend of Swoop, King Sparta, Crazy T-Rex, Orina64 Studios, Super Sailor Formers Hedgehog, Xavier the God, Stitch Productions, and Scrub Lordo. And an even bigger shout out to our even bigger Patreons, Joran the Great and NextNor23, who donated a amount of money. If you guys want to shout out your subs, all you gotta do is donate to my Patreon. I give access to videos early, you can request your own videos, collab with me in some of my videos if you choose to, and of course you get a shout out to your channel. Be sure to check out my Patreon's channels, the links will be in the description down below for you guys to check out. Some of them do Transformers content and some of them do whatever it is they want to do. Thank you all for your support, it helps out the channel a lot, but keep in mind that it's entirely optional because freedom's the right of all sentient beings. So yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.